Hello, hello. I think we're on at 7:05. I'm not really sure if our clock is right or not, but welcome Dr. Marc, Dr. Colleen from Lifetime Wellness, and we are doing our live Q&A right now. We've gotten a lot of questions the last few decades we've been in practice, of course, but since we put this out there to ask you for some of your most pressing questions, we've gotten quite a few, but we're not going to answer all of them tonight or we'd be here forever. So we just want to take a look at...
We love to talk about this stuff, but this could go on for an hour and a half. So we just got 3 we're going to answer tonight.
The first one, if you followed us for any length of time, you know that one of the services that we offer that's very, very popular is our food sensitivity testing. We feel it's of immense importance as a functional lab test, and the information you can glean from that test is astounding, how it can transform someone's health. So a question we get all the time, and we got it when we did this little project of ours, is what is the difference between food sensitivities and food allergies? And kind of part B of that is, so why do I even need a test for these food sensitivities of which you speak?
So unlike a standard blood test, a lot of people get those sometimes year after year, or even multiple times a year, and a lot of times they're like, yeah, you know, they didn't really tell me anything, everything's normal. A food sensitivity test can be one of the most valuable tests that you take, especially if the foods are causing a problem, and a lot of people suspect that foods are causing a problem, but the difference between a food allergy and a food sensitivity is pretty clear. It's an immune system test, and we're testing 2 parts of the immune system. So a true food allergy is going to be an IgE immune response, meaning it's a very acute response. You'll see it and witness it immediately within moments. So for example, a kid with a nut allergy, you might have trouble breathing right away. If you have a shellfish allergy, you might break out in hives. So it can be something a little more minor like hives, it could be something extreme like an emergency situation, but it's going to happen right away. A lot of times, you know, you identify that, you may not even need a food allergy test. A food sensitivity test is an IgG immune response, meaning it's a delayed immune response. It could be anywhere from several hours to a few days before your body displays a reaction. And it could be something as simple as your skin gets itchy, you have some brain fog, you don't sleep well, maybe your bathroom habits are off or loose, maybe you're irritable, maybe you've got a little bowel upset. Stuff that you could attribute to a lot of other things, not necessarily always foods, but because of the delayed response, this is why the test is valuable for people, because you could also develop a sensitivity to otherwise healthy foods like fruits and vegetables and things that you wouldn't necessarily suspect. For example, you could have green beans and 2 days later have a migraine. Well, first of all, who's going to blame the green bean? Probably no one. So, and secondly, you know, you're not going to think about what you had 2 days ago. You're going to think about what you had that night before, the morning up. So the food sensitivity test can really pinpoint those foods that your body has developed a hypersensitive reaction to. And so there's no more guesswork, and you're not trying to do a food elimination diet, cuts right to the chase.
Like food elimination diets with the food sensitivity are
very difficult, very challenging, and cumbersome, and inaccurate.
Because of that delayed response that you see, it's really hard to pinpoint that. I want to say too, with the food sensitivities, Dr. Marc listed a bunch of the symptoms can be anything under the sun from a food sensitivity, whereas most people think, well, it's not really affecting my gut in their specific case. If it's not affecting their gut, well, it's probably not food related then. I must be having some other problems. Those symptoms can run the gamut across the board. So just because you're not having symptoms in the gut per se does not mean the gut and food sensitivities are not involved.
But here's the other thing that why this can be so valuable is because people can go for literally years without discovering what food they have a sensitivity to. The fact is that every time you eat that food, that triggers an inflammatory response throughout your body, and that can last for days to weeks. So if you're not healthy, you know, you clearly are challenged with some things and you've been struggling to figure it out, you might want to look into whether or not you're a good candidate for that test, because it literally could change your life overnight with a simple, it's just a simple finger prick blood test. Takes a couple weeks to get the results, and you can go from there.
Who's a good candidate for the test?
Well, certainly there are people that...
I'll tell you, it's people who eat food. People who eat food would be a good candidate for the food test.
But there are a lot of people who call it, they know some foods are causing them problems. They suspect that. But if you've been trying to deal with something and nothing's been working, the food test might be the missing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, the next question. We had several questions that are kind of around this same subject, and this one has to do with chiropractic care. A lot of people understand that if you have a new injury, a new condition, something acute going on, that it makes sense. You understand why you'd want to get adjusted more frequently, so that you can really get ahead of whatever it is that has been disrupted in the spine and the nervous system. But the question then arises, what about after that? What's the ideal frequency to get adjusted when I don't necessarily have pain or symptoms going on or an injury going on? So I know we each have a similar opinion on that, and it's not the same for every individual, but there are some commonalities across the board.
Yeah, not necessarily an easy question to answer, because it varies, and there is no standard rule when it comes to that. On one hand, if you're dealing with an injury or discomfort or pain, some people will choose to just seek care when that's happening. And that's one way to utilize chiropractic, and it can be very successful. Other people, and this is what we tend to try to educate our clients and our patients on, is it's really more about optimizing your health. So if you think about other areas of your life, like optimizing your fitness level, you're going to exercise. Exercise is going to become a lifestyle. It's going to become a regular thing that you do to maintain good health and good fitness. If you're trying to optimize, your oral health, you're going to be brushing your teeth every day and flossing and things like that. Not just wait till there's a problem or a cavity or some issue and then go crazy with it and then stop again. It's a lifestyle. And we're talking about, with chiropractic, we're talking about optimizing your central nervous system, because it really has more to do with your brain than it does your back. And some people use it for a bad back, but we know neurologically, if you have a bad back, especially a chronic bad back, you are going to end up with a bad brain, just the way the spine influences the function of the brain. So, getting adjusted regardless of symptoms or regardless of a backache is a smart, intelligent way to take care of your body and your health and your brain, and it's just about optimizing your central nervous system. So we have a lot of, we've been in practice over 24 years, we have a lot of clients and families that come in on a regular basis. Could be once a week, could be every couple weeks, it could be a couple times a week. Sometimes they base it on just how, the experience they've had and how they feel after doing that for a while and what's optimal for them. So, we tend to recommend weekly as a wellness, every other week, kind of at the outside of wellness. If people are just popping in once a month or every few months, not necessarily getting ahead of anything, we might be addressing the same issue over and over. So
we actually dealt with that many years ago when we first started our practice, and we came out of school. That's actually the type of practice that we had. We didn't know any better, so I would call it more of a pain or symptom-based
relief care
practice. And we figured out pretty quickly that these people aren't getting any better when they're just coming in when they're in pain. We're not getting ahead. So that's when we moved into more corrective care and then added the whole wellness component as well. There's some pretty interesting studies out that have shown as well, for those that need a little more black and white evidence, once there's been a disruption, either in the alignment, the motion of the spine, what we call subluxation, where there's been some interference, that pretty quickly you can start to see signs of degeneration show up on an x-ray within a couple weeks.
Yeah,
so,
couple weeks.
We've been teaching for years, why would we wait to get adjusted for 2 weeks or longer?
And it's
you
just
can start to see breakdown that quickly.
Chiropractic is a different health paradigm than traditional allopathic care or medical care, because medicine is really based on acute crisis intervention. If you've got a major symptom, you're broken, you're bleeding, they've got things to help with an acute situation. Beyond that, they really have nothing to offer. And so we try to educate our clients that, you know, chiropractic is not like, that's not the purpose of chiropractic. Chiropractic is more like your other healthy lifestyle things like brushing your teeth, drinking clean water, eating fruits and vegetables, and exercising. It's something you do to be proactive with your health. And in this case, I mean, you're talking about your central nervous system and your brain. You know, there's not many things that are more important than that. So.
Good. Okay, final question for
That's
tonight.
I'm sticking with it.
This was a doozy, but I think we have a pretty concise answer to it. We'll see.
How long have we been going already?
How long?
Okay.
So, again, a few people asked, so I'm trying to kind of combine their questions. It's regarding inflammation. Inflammation has been kind of the buzzword now for a few years. Even in mainstream media, you see talk show hosts in the morning talking about inflammation in our health, and news reports at night about inflammation. So some of these questions were pertaining to, how do I know if I have inflammation? Should I already assume I have inflammation? If it's 2019 and I've been living on the planet for a while, chances are pretty good. And then how do you address inflammation? So that's a loaded question. I mean, we do many multiple hour-long seminars on this topic. But we can start to chip away at that and give our best recommendation on the most effective thing to begin to address that.
Okay, so not all inflammation is bad. Inflammation can be an initial stage of healing, so it's not all bad. What we're concerned with is chronic, systemic, cellular inflammation. That will massively disrupt your body and your ability to heal and be well. So inflammation is a major driving force for virtually all chronic illness. And so when we talk about systemic inflammation, the bad inflammation that we're talking about and test people for is not inflammation like if you twisted your ankle and your ankle swelled. That's proper, normal inflammation. This is inflammation that you don't necessarily feel, you don't see it, it's happening internally at the level of the cell. So without getting into a big biology lesson, that's the inflammation we're talking about that drives chronic illness and drives things like weight loss resistance and hormone dysregulation, and diabetes and heart disease and arthritis and lots of things. Inflammation contributes to and encourages these types of chronic illness. So there are a few big things that drive cellular inflammation. By far, number one is toxins. And so we're just in a different environment, a different world now than what our grandparents grew up in, and just thousands and thousands of toxins that we're exposed to. It could be on a daily basis, but certainly they're all around us. So big time toxins drive inflammation. Bad foods, things like sugar, hydrogenated oils, bad fats, trans fats, preservatives, artificial sweeteners, a lot of those types of things that are unnatural drive inflammation. And then foods that you've developed a sensitivity to drive inflammation. So we talked about that earlier. So those would be the big three. And inflammation just will slowly move you into a state of being hormone resistant. The toxins are really a big part of this. And so I would say, number one, we do have a test for cellular inflammation. It's a simple urine test that we do in the office. It's part of every nutrition consultation that we do, and something we can monitor if someone's under care. So you can measure that. There are some other blood markers too that can indicate chronic inflammation, but this is a pretty accurate test. But to address inflammation, certainly diet would be a huge part of that. People eating some known inflammatory foods. Maybe they have some food sensitivities, so maybe they need a food test to cut those out. But dealing with toxins, that's a game changer, but it's also a place where you've got to be careful, you've got to be smart about how you properly detox the body, especially at a cellular level. And detoxification is one of those words, it's become popular. You see it on TV shows and hear it recommended, whether it's a colon cleanse, a liver cleanse, detox titles of things. What we're talking about is using specific tools and supplements that go in and work at the level of the cell to detox the cell, do it safely, bind to toxins that when you want to get out of the body and make sure that they're eliminated and not recirculated through the body and retoxifying.
And with the proper timing, the proper phasing in of the next level of detoxification.
Yeah, you got to start slow and work through that properly. You
have to prepare detox pathways properly for a deeper, more thorough, more comprehensive detox protocol like the one that we're talking about that gets to the level of the cell. But you'll hear us say all the time too that you have to fix the cell in order to truly get well. So that's this type of detox.
And when we say that, we mean that because that's where the inflammation does damage, is at the cell. And so, you can see quick results with that too. Like and this is something you can visually see in people when they're not so inflamed. They like you stuck a pin in it. They literally are not so swollen. But you see that throughout their whole physiology. Yeah, I mean, toxins would be the number one source, but inflammation is a big deal. Like, you have to address it, especially if you do our test and you score high. Like, that's the priority. You can't get better if you're inflamed. You can't lose weight if you're chronically inflamed. You can't be well if you're chronically inflamed.
Or heal from an illness that's already happening in your body. You have to address inflammation, whether you're looking to achieve and maintain optimal health, or you need to get that back because you've already lost it. Inflammation is one of the biggies that has to be addressed. So
cool.
We'll cut it off there because we could go on that topic for a long time. So those of you who are watching live, we appreciate it. Please let your friends, family, Facebook friends know that we're going to start doing these more often. Let us know what your questions are and share
all that
this
stuff. Leave a comment, hit the like button, all those things you're supposed to do now.
Whatever you're supposed to do, go ahead and do that. But share this video if
and we're going to be doing more of these.
Next week we're going to be talking about toxins and inflammation and proper detoxification protocols. So that's actually next Wednesday at 7:05 ish.
Cool.
Right? We'll see you then. Let us know what questions you have.